The part of my talk was supposed to be about the belief of Al-Masih in the previous religions and compared with Islam. We know from studying the Seerah, for example, the Jews were residing in Medina and in Arabia generally, waiting for the coming of a prophet, the prophet of the end of days. And until now, many Jews believe that the Messiah is coming. And many of them the Zionists of the Jews have resided in Israel or in Palestine and established the state of Israel, anticipating the coming of the Messiah and preparing for the coming of the Messiah. We know that as well some of the Christians, they believe that the Messiah will only come until the Jews have returned to the Holy Land, and so many of the Christians have become as well, have adopted this belief. Some differ in this belief, but generally among the Christians there is this concept as well of the coming of the Messiah, the coming of Isa alayhi salam to earth another time, and for there to be false prophets as well. Now this is where the confusion occurs, because each one believes that his prophet is the correct prophet and everyone else is the Antichrist. And so, as Muslims, we believe that that Al-Masih Isa ibn Maryam will come back to earth, and preceding the coming of Isa ibn Maryam will be Al-Masih al-Dajjal, the false Messiah or the Antichrist, and there will also be Al-Mahdi, which has been authentically reported from our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, as you can imagine, each group will believe that his man is the true Mahdi or the true Masih, and everyone else's is the false Masih. So you can imagine that will cause a lot of confusion. And in reality, there is a lot of confusion. This is the nature of it. This is the nature of fitna and trials. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, there is no trial that will be set for this nation greater than a Dajjal. And the nature of fitna is that it's not clear. It's ambiguous. People will be tricked. Okay? But our Messenger ﷺ also told us that every prophet, the narrations start from Nuh alayhi salam, have warned their people of Ad-Dajjal. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so from all the prophets, so that means it was in the teachings of Musa, it was in the teachings of Isa, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, but I will teach you something that no other prophet has said, and he gave us detailed description of the Masih ad-Dajjal, saying that he has one eye, that one of his eyes is blanked out with a covering of skin, and the other eye is blind in it, and it is protruding like a floating grape, and so on. So there has been descriptions and details the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has told us that no other prophet has said, and that was probably discussed in the other lectures. So without going into too much detail of that, I just want to cover the aspect of a lot of confusion when it comes to the issue of the Dajjal. But the Prophet ﷺ gave us a hint. And that is the only way to survive the Dajjal is with what? With knowledge. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that I will tell you something that all the other prophets haven't said, and that is that the Dajjal is one-eyed and your Lord is not one-eyed. So it doesn't matter with what miracles the Dajjal will come with. And he will come with amazing miracles and with things to justify why he is God. He will do things that only God can do. He will command the sky and it will rain. He will command the earth and it will bring forth its produce and crops. He will command the earth and it will bring forth his treasures. He will kill a man and he will bring him back to life. And this he will use to prove that he is God, because only God can do this. Now many of us sitting here, hearing this, we say, oh, I know that, so when I see it, then it won't be a test for me. But wallahi, when it comes, you will have Muslims who will be following this. Even sometimes people of knowledge and maybe even mashayikh. How will the fitna be then? It will be severe. The narrations from the Prophet ﷺ say that a man will see so many people following the Dajjal that if he leaves his house to go to work or to do something, he will get scared that in his absence, his wife and children will follow the Dajjal, and he will want to tie them up in their house so they don't get caught up in it. The fitna of the Dajjal will come preceding years of drought and famine. For 1 year, 1/3 of the earth will not receive rainfall. The second year, 2/3 of the earth will not receive rainfall. In the third year, the entire earth will not receive rainfall. The people will be in a state of desperation. Then the Dajjal will appear and he will have mountains of bread and meat. If you believe in the Dajjal, you eat. If you don't believe in the Dajjal, you starve. How many people will give up their religion for the sake of food? Can we guarantee ourselves that we will sustain? Maybe a person will say, no, I'll put up with the hunger and thirst. But you see your wife and your children in anguish, starving, crying. How many people will be able to sustain that? It will take the people, give them to give up their religion. A lot of the times we worry about fitna. We think fitna is only, looking at haram, or committing zina, or drinking alcohol, taking riba, compromising some things in the religion. The fitna of the Dajjal will be greater than that. The temptations, and a person will deviate from his religion greater than that. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, he told us the way out of it. And that is with knowledge. That no matter what the Dajjal comes with, and he will come with very convincing proofs, many people will follow. People will say to you, follow. Obviously, they won't call him the Dajjal. Follow him. He is on the truth. He is the true Masih. He is this. He is God. Everyone is doing it. How many people they do things? Why? Because everyone's doing it. And this is why our Prophet ﷺ, he told us that no matter what you see, there will be clear signs that a believer will be able to ignore all the other things and still recognize the truth. His blindness in his one eye, his writing of kafara in his forehead. But the problem is that many people will be deluded, will overlook these obvious signs, because it's easy for us to say now it's obvious. Like many fitnas happened before, whether it's in deviated religious groups, who many people they say, now we realize that they're deviated. Well, it's obvious to people with knowledge. But then when people realize it's too late, or when it comes to shonky business dealings, many people lost their money. But the people of knowledge, they say they won, and then they said, it's obvious now. But when a person's inside the fitna, he doesn't see. And this is why our Messenger ﷺ, he also told us that when you see the Dajjal, he comes with 2 rivers. Correct? One river representing what? You learned this or not? One river representing Jannah and the other river representing the hellfire. He said, if you come and you are asked to drink from which one? The one of the fire. But the narration, it says, close your eyes and dip your head and read what? The beginnings, verses of Surah Al-Kahf. And this shows us the importance of knowledge. How many Muslims are reading Surah Al-Kahf? And it's not only reading it, it's understanding what Surah Al-Kahf is about. Surah Al-Kahf is about the story of the boys who saved their religion and found isolation in the cave to protect their religion from being deviated, because they knew that if they stayed with their people, that they would force them to leave their religion and become deviated. In summary, Surah Al-Kahf speaks about 4 trials. The trial of the youth of the cave who were trialed in their religion. The trial of Sahibul Jannatain, the man who had 2 gardens with the river flowing underneath it. or between them both, this is the trial of wealth. The trial of Musa alayhi salam and Al-Khidr is the trial of knowledge. And the fourth story that's mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf is the story of Dhul Qarnayn, who had power and dominance on the earth. These four things Dajjal will come with. He will test people in their religion. He will test people in wealth, like what we described, that he will have food and those who believe in him will live and those who don't believe in him will suffer. He will test people with knowledge, and he will test people with power and prominence. And so when we read Surah Al-Kahf, we strengthen ourselves to overcome these fitnas, so that in hope, and that's why we read it on Friday, because Friday is a reminder of the last day, because the day of judgment will happen on Friday, and so we prepare ourselves for the trials that will come before the last day. And this is why we read Surah Al-Kahf. So if you see that the way of Savior from, and to be able to distinguish between the confusions that will be in surrounding Ad-Dajjal is through knowledge. But where do we get our knowledge from? We take our knowledge from the correct sources. We don't take our knowledge, wallah, I want to go watch Netflix just to see what they see. And he doesn't come and learn from the people of knowledge, from the Quran and the Sunnah, not from people, because this is done on purpose to put confusion in the minds of the Muslims. And this isn't the first time, nor will be the last time. The concept of the Dajjal has been promoted since we were children, and all of us have adopted this mindset in our minds since we were children. When you watch Superman and Batman and whatever, who's the enemy of Superman? Always there is the Superman, there's the good guy, and there's the anti. There's the protagonist and the antagonist. The one who looks like Superman, but he's the opposite. The one who looks like Superman, but he's the opposite. This concept is not a new concept. It's being infiltrated into the minds of people from old. So if we don't take precaution and build our knowledge and the knowledge of our wives and our children and our families, but from the correct sources, not learning from the media, not learning from your masjid, learning from your sheikhs, attending the lessons, going to the Sharia colleges, or else when the trials come, then we won't guarantee, even we can't guarantee ourselves. The Sahaba, they feared for themselves. Do we have more iman than the Sahaba? They feared for themselves. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, and dua is one of the great ways to protect ourselves from the fitna of the Dajjal. And this is why even in the end of our salah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr wa min adhab jahannam wa min fitnat al-mahya wal-mamat wa min sharri fitnat al-masih Ad-Dajjal. We say this dua in every prayer. We should make sure that we always say it to protect ourselves and our families and our children. Jazakumullah khairan wa sallallahu sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.
Al Bayan Radio, the voice of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah.